You talked about your role as Secretary of State. I think the public view of you is the election side. You know, people know you as the reformer. You brought consistency, uniformity to the state elections. You've been so successful and applauded by Democratic or progressive groups. You even won the Profile and Courage Award in 2008 for the work you did in the 2008 election, which notably went off smoothly, and all the discussion about fraud and all the rest of it just kind of went away. Never really an apology from the mainstream media for the kind of day in, day out barrage of attacks you were taking. There's a question here, though. Everybody knows the election side. What have you done on the business side, the side that nobody wants to talk about, to help improve the economic environment in the state of Ohio, help small businesses, and streamline the processes here in Ohio?
Just today we opened a Cleveland office that offers business services filings here in the Cleveland area, so it really serves the greater Northeast Ohio area. Already folks who want to use the services of our office for apostilles, for authenticated documents they need for other countries, for minister's licenses, they've been able to do that for some time. And there's historically been an office in Cleveland under past administrations, but this is the first time we've said the kind of services that small businesses need, that law firms need, it's here. You can walk it into our office and we'll take care of it. On top of that, there were a number of functions in the business services section that were outsourced. So if a person called into the Secretary of State's office under the previous administration, and even when I took over until we could change it, they got someone from Cincinnati, Ohio, who didn't work for the Secretary of State, who hadn't been trained by my office, who frankly I didn't even know. And so, and then with filings for Uniform Commercial Code, financing statements that evidence an interest in personal property, those were outsourced to another company from Cedarville. So what we had were quality control problems, and so if someone in Cincinnati said, oh, just do this, and it was the wrong information, people's filings were rejected. People who worked in my office in business services had previously not been allowed to contact customers by phone or by email to say, you know, we just need one more thing to correct your documents and to correct your filing. So we brought jobs back into the office, so we had better accountability, and eliminated the outsourcing. We were able to eliminate sort of a middle level of management. While we brought these jobs back in, we have put more filings online, and so what we've done has been to try to make it a more seamless approach for businesses, so that we're not creating government red tape and hurdles for them in getting their businesses started. We've been collaborating with the governor's office and the Department of Development on creating sort of a one-stop approach. That still is ongoing. And then on top of this, we're going to be rolling out an initiative that we call Better Lives, Better Ohio. And it's essentially an index of life quality indicators that will show for a 5-year period anything from the use of public libraries to recidivism from prison. So we can see not just the economic factors, but the social factors that affect living in Ohio. And we can tell Ohio's story. We can show if there have been improvements or if there's been a decrease. And hopefully we can use that to create a snapshot of what the workforce is in Ohio, to show new employers coming in the quality of the workforce that they'll get here in Ohio, in addition to being able to allow the governor and the legislature to see these statistics over time. And we'll go in 5-year increments, and as we move into the next year, we drop a year off, we add a year on, and they can see what the effectiveness of their government and their policy-making decisions are. So we're the record keeper for the state, and the rest of the state government depends upon us, but we're doing, with the resources that we have, everything that we can to improve the business climate here in the state of Ohio.
You opened the Cleveland office today. Are there other regional offices, or is it just Cleveland and Columbus right now?
It's Cleveland and Columbus right now. We want to treat this as a pilot, and then most of our funding for our agency is generated from the fees that we collect. We've not increased fees. In fact, we've kept at a level 2005 budget level, plus sustained 3-5% cuts in our general revenue funding. So we think that over time, if this is successful, and we think it will be, we can look at Cincinnati, the Cincinnati-Dayton area, Toledo, other areas of the state, you know, one at a time. Cheryl's Cookies didn't start out doing birthday cake cookies. They started out selling cookies and gradually grew to do even bigger things. So we'll start and build.
The 2008 elections, you were seen either as a champion or a co-conspirator, depending on who you're talking to. National coverage, people knew you nationwide.
Yes, they did. My
Yeah.
mother used to call me and tell me that I looked tired.
But it was day in and day out, and you're trying to do your job, not just the election stuff, but the business side stuff as well. How difficult was it on a daily basis to take these kind of constant hits and not necessarily, and I'm looking at it from my point of view, I don't think fairly being backed up by every member of your party, because it felt like there were a lot of people who were kind of maybe hiding a little bit. And I won't say who, because I don't know if I could actually identify those people, but there were no champions really rising up and saying, hey, get off Jennifer Brunner's back. She's doing something that's really important here. A lot of it came after the election. How hard was it day to day to go into the office and face this?
If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So it was, you've got to do what you got to do. And certainly, there's this sense of injustice when you see something that is not reported correctly, and that it's a completely different story than the way that they're reporting it, but you just got to look at what you can change and what you can't. And in the end, my job was to work for the voters, and my job was to make sure that I worked with the boards of elections to create an election system that kept the needs of the voters first. And first and foremost, we were looking at the issue of long lines. And so we had to do things that weren't popular with boards of elections, which there's 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats on the boards. The boards that work best are the ones that are not overly partisan against each other, but there are some where it's a direct pipeline to the Ohio Republican Party. And it's unfortunate that the Secretary of State, that your election administration is affected by the fact that you sit on the apportionment board. So you got to do what you got to do. And in the end, that once election day gets here, it's either going to go really well or sort of okay or really badly. And I just prayed a lot.
At the end of the day, though, as you look at this Senate run, there would be people who would say instantly, Jennifer Brunner is a polarizing figure, even though your demeanor is not and your politics are not. But I mean, to Republicans in the state of Ohio and other parts of the country, you're public enemy #1 in Ohio because you reformed elections. To Democrats, you're a hero and a champion. It helps you in a Democratic primary to be viewed that way, I think. Do you think it hurts you more than a just average Democrat, insert name here, in a race against Rob Portman or Mary Taylor or whomever?
Well, I mean, it won't be boring. But all I really tried to do was to do what I thought was right and to do my job and to do it well. And so if it meant that I had to ruffle some feathers, I only had 22 months to do this. And in the end, people can look at their own individual voting experiences and they can say, it wasn't bad. I don't see all those things that they were talking about. And when I ran for Secretary of State, they tried to use my court cases against me, and people said, well, how is this really relevant to what went on? And when you're in the Senate, you're not running elections. You're representing the people of your state, and you're using your best judgment and your abilities to bring people together under difficult circumstances with varying points of view to get them to move ahead, to get something done for the people of the country. I did that when I started a drug court, and I got the unanimous approval of 16 judges who all had very, very different points of view on this. And I did that when I was able to work with a very talented staff and a lot of people in the spectrum who were interested in elections, and get the election to go smoothly in Ohio, despite a lot of slings and arrows that no other Secretary of State in the country had to deal with. I'm perfect for this job.